So question 3 is the following. Your state introduced a tax cut in the year 2017. You're interested in seeing whether this tax cut has led to increases in personal consumption within the state. You observe the following information. So in the year 2012, consumption in your neighborhood or your state was 330. In 2014, it was 315. In 16, it was 370. In 2018, it was 430. So in sub-exercise A, we have the following situation. Your friend argues that the best estimate of the effect of the tax cut is an increase in consumption of 60 units. So 60 units because he's simply taking the difference between 2018 and 2016. So that's his guess. But you think that the true effect is smaller because consumption was trending upwards prior to the tax cut. So you see that if you look at the 2-year intervals before the tax cut, there was an increase of 20 for each year. So now the question is, what do you think is a better estimate? Okay. So what is a better estimate? So how about if we account for this trend that we had before and subtract this from the difference that we had when going from 2016 to 2018. So before the tax cut, consumption was increasing by 20 units every 2 years. Okay, so this is what we observe, which means that if the trend would have continued without this tax cut, what you would have expected is that from 2016 to 2018, if everything continued as before, we would have ended up with 390. Okay, so if there wouldn't have been, if there would not have been a tax cut, we would expect consumption to be 390 in 2018. The actual consumption was 430. Therefore, a better estimate would be 430. Okay, this is a very ugly 3. Let me rewrite this. 430 minus 390 equal to 40. Okay, and 40 units can be attributed to the tax cut as an estimation, which is lower than what the friend estimated, because he said the tax cut led to an increase of 60 units, which is an overestimation because there was a trend beforehand. Okay, so in B, we now have an additional information. So suppose that you find information on a neighboring state that did not change its tax policy during this time period. So this is a control group. You observe the following information in that state. In 2012, consumption was 300. In 2014, consumption was 320. In 16, it was 340. And in 18, finally, it was 350. Given this information, what is your best estimate of the effect of the tax cut on consumption? What assumptions are required for that to be the right estimate of the effect of the tax cut? Explain. And as you probably already know, this is again kind of a situation where we can use the difference in differences approach. And yeah, that's what we will be doing now. So this is sub exercise B. So we use a difference in difference approach. We use a diff in diff approach. So what we then basically do is we compare the differences within the groups, comparing the years 2016 and 2018 with each other. And then we get a good estimate about how much the tax cut actually increased consumption. So in 2016, what we have, 2016, 2018 difference, your state, so in your state, is 430 minus 370. This is equal to 60. Then the 2016 to 2018 difference in neighbor state is then simply 350 minus 340. And this is then equal to 10. So when looking at our state, what we had is an increase of 60 units in consumption. And what we then have in the neighboring state where we didn't have a tax cut, there we only saw an increase in 10. And now assuming that the two states are comparable, so your neighboring state and your own state, we can conclude that a good estimate is given by the tax cut increasing consumption by 50 units. Yeah, so what we basically had before, so in sub exercise A, was only the information with respect to our own state, and we had a trend which we accounted for. But now what we have is we have a comparison in that we have a second state, which is the neighboring state. And when we assume that everything, like on average, the two states are equivalent, then what we can conclude is that, yeah, 50 units of an increase in consumption is due to the tax cut. And as before, so as in A, sorry, this was not A. I think the other exercise was exercise number 2B. So as in 2B, we would need to assume that the two states would have basically developed in the same way in absence of this tax cut. So as in 2b, we would need to assume that both states would have developed in the same way if there would not have been a tax cut. Okay, so it's always important that when you are using this difference in difference approach, that you make sure that in absence of the treatment, the developments would have been the same. This doesn't mean that the numbers need to be the same, but the trend should have been the same. So the trend from 2016 to 2018 should have been the same in both states. Otherwise, there could have been factors which, for instance, influenced only your neighboring state and not your state. And this causes some trouble in that it's biasing the estimation of the difference in difference kind of approach. Okay, so this brings us to the last exercise. Sorry, one moment. Yes, so here. More than 100 observational studies have found a link between moderate drinking and improved cardiovascular health. In these studies, moderate drinking has been shown to be associated with reduced risk of heart attack, stroke, and death from all cardiovascular causes. The studies find a remarkably consistent effect with a 25% to 40% reduction in risk observed across an area of countries, in both men and women, and across all age groups. Then you can find a review on a web page, so you can click on the link and then you can look at the study. So suppose that you are a physician reviewing this evidence. Will you recommend to your patients who are infrequent drinkers or abstainers that they should increase their consumption of alcohol? So yeah, let's go to the page. So obviously the quick answer is like no. So no, you should not recommend. So you should not recommend your patients who are infrequent drinkers to suddenly start drinking. Yeah, and this is again a situation where one basically confuses correlation with causality. Yeah, so it can simply be the case that there is no causal relationship between alcohol and cardiovascular health, because the point is that the group of people who drink in a moderate way or quite frequently might be very different from the group of abstainers or people who are actually not drinking. Yeah, so there could be a reason why somebody is not drinking. It could be that this person has health issues, for instance, or has kind of, I don't know, um, has conditions which actually make drinking for this particular person dangerous. Therefore, it's a naive thing to just think that just because the group of people who are moderate drinkers are kind of people who have a lower risk of cardiovascular or they have improved cardiovascular health, it's naive to think that you can simply make a proposal to another group which decided to not drink or to drink a very low amount of times to that they start drinking more. Yeah, so you shouldn't recommend this because of the following. So one reason group of drinkers might be systematically different than group of non-drinkers. Okay, and they could be systematically different with respect to health issues. So difference could be due to other health issues than cardiovascular health. Okay, so this is one explanation. Yeah, so the group of drinkers could be people who are in a very good and healthy condition, such that they can actually drink, and in basically this could mean that they drink because they are in a very good health condition, so their body can deal with this. And in addition, because they are in a good health condition, they have a lower risk of suffering from cardiovascular um, illnesses. And at the same time, the group of non-drinkers, like there might be a reason why they're not drinking, and this could be because they are basically in a poor health state where yes, they cannot deal with drinking because it would impact them in a much more negative way than yeah, drinkers. This would be the answer to this question. And yes, this is the last question for this week. So the problem set this time was quite yeah, it was a quite short problem set, but as you will see, like we will have problem sets which are a little bit longer, sometimes they're shorter. So yeah, on average, we will try to get 60 to 90 minutes always. So do not worry about this. And as I said last time, if you have any questions, please let me know, write me an email, and I will try to answer the questions that you have. Thanks and see you next week.